Today, you live the life of a Blood Angel space marine. I was born on a death world shrouded under blood-red moonlight. At 12, I was chosen as an aspirant of the Blood Angels chapter. I would eventually fall on a nameless, shattered asteroid that not one Imperial chronicle would ever record. I was born on Baal, a crimson desert pitted with radiation craters, where my tribe scratched out an existence among the war-burned ruins of ancient machines older than recorded Imperial history. My mother, her thin hand almost translucent from radiation sickness, trembled as she pushed the last sliver of moldy black bread between my cracked childhood lips. By the age of 7, I could already tear open a venomous desert serpent with my bare hands and crush the last bitter drop of water from the dry root of a withered crimson cactus. Golden meteors often streaked across the desert night sky, and the tribal elders whispered that they were the angels descending to choose the strongest sons of Baal. An older boy from the neighboring tent, 2 years my senior, was quietly taken by the angels one night. For 3 long years afterward, no one in our tribe ever dared to speak his name again. At 11, the tribe held the cruel blood rite of manhood, and I strangled to death with my bare hands a chitinous red predator beast that lurked deep inside the bone-littered rock caves. On the night of my 12th birthday, a 2.5-meter giant clad in golden power armor descended from the blood-red sky upon our tribal camp amid the roar of jump pack thrusters. He cast a rune-etched obsidian ritual dagger down at my bare feet and commanded that I prove with my own blood whether I was worthy to inherit the gene seed of the angel. I was abandoned alone in a burning radioactive sand sea hot enough to melt iron, ordered to walk a full 1,000 kilometers on foot before I would even be permitted to return alive. The blistering sand quickly shredded my soles raw, and every step left a long trailing line of crimson footprints printed across the endless red dunes behind me. In the freezing dead of night, I drove the obsidian dagger again and again into my own left palm, lapping the warm, seeping blood from the wound just to force my mind to stay awake. When I finally collapsed at the foot of the black basalt obelisk that marked the end of the trial, the golden giant simply looked down at me and gave one cold, silent nod of acceptance. He stooped, lifted me from the sand as easily as a child, and formally declared that from this day forward I belonged to the sacred Third Company of the Blood Angels chapter. As I climbed the black boarding ramp of the Gothic battle barge, I turned and took one last look at the tribal bonfire glimmering tiny as a candle far out in the red dune sea. Deep inside the chapel of the Apothecarian, the colossal black iron surgical slab was bitterly cold, every inch of its surface engraved with the Latin litanies of saints long martyred. They poured the golden blood of our Primarch Sanguinius directly into my heart, and through the searing agony, I beheld with my own eyes the winged angel himself standing above me. My ribs sprouted like maddened seeds into a fresh black carapace plating, and my lungs split apart in screaming pain to grow a second pair beneath the first within my swelling chest. When at last I opened my eyes again, I had grown to 2.5 meters tall, my musculature wrapped in the unmistakable sanguine crimson sheen of the Blood Angel's lineage. I sealed myself into deep crimson Mk.7 power armor, fastening every clamp and seal, and for the first time felt the jump pack thrusters roar and burn in glorious fire behind my back. My veteran sergeant solemnly pressed a roaring chain's word into my open palm, and the spinning teeth shook so violently that the tremor numbed my entire armored arm to the shoulder. My very first formal combat deployment was the brutal suppression of a massive worker uprising that had erupted across the smoke-choked manufactorums of a Gothic hive industrial world. I cut down an entire charging line of rebel insurgents with my bolter, and their thick, dark blood slowly pooled into great black puddles across the Gothic cobblestones of the alleyway. After the battle, the old sergeant clapped my blood-soaked shoulder pauldron in silence for a long moment and said, "Welcome, brother, to the true cruel face hidden behind the Imperium." That night, I knelt alone on the icy stone steps of the shipboard chapel and recited the long penitential litany over and over again before the towering oil painting of the Primarch. After 3 full years of service, my elite squad was ordered to drop onto an agricultural world being savagely plundered by an Eldar pirate raiding fleet that struck from violet skies. I leaped a deep ravine on my roaring jump pack and brought my chainsword screaming down in a single arc, cleaving open the ornate crystalline helm of an Eldar pirate captain. When my closest battle brother fell at my feet in the charred wheat fields, I myself used the apothecary's reductor to extract the still-warm gene seed from his shattered chest cavity. On the day the campaign ended, we had saved 3,000 peasant serfs, and they all knelt together on the scorched earth and tearfully kissed my blood-caked crimson armor plating. The chapter master himself anointed me as second-in-command of the 3rd Company and bestowed upon me an ancestral power axe crackling with the deep azure lightning of generations. In a desperate ambush battle against a vanguard swarm of tyrannid Xenos, I single-handedly cleaved down a full-grown adult Carnifex warrior beast with nothing but my ancestral axe. On the meat-grinder battlefields of blood-stained Armageddon, I held a breached fortress wall alone against 3 full surging waves of green-skinned orc hordes for 3 days and nights. My battle brothers began to whisper of me as the Crimson Butcher, yet every single night I now dreamed of nothing but my mother's gaunt radiation-scarred face back on Baal Secundus. I began lingering after each killing to gaze at the dark blood pouring from a slain enemy's chest, and the tip of my tongue would burn hot and tingling without my willing it at all. The Reclusiarch chaplain grimly warned me that this was precisely the first prophesied sign of the ancient red thirst curse bequeathed by Sanguinius himself to all his blood descendants. My first true seizure struck during the savage chaos of pitched battle. I tore open an orc warlord's throat with my teeth and greedily drank the warm living blood as it gushed forth. Upon returning to the battle barge, I was instantly chained inside a stone penitent cell, and for 7 full days and nights I was permitted not a single mouthful of food or water. In the famished depths of the night, I gnawed wildly at my own armored knuckles, desperate beyond reason to taste any warm trickle of liquid that might run down my parched throat. The chaplain himself lowered onto my face a heavy and finely jeweled amethyst death mask, declaring that this sacred relic would help delay the next onset of the red thirst curse. I returned to the carnage of the battlefield behind the cold amethyst mask, yet through my visor I could no longer tell whose blood surged before me, the enemy's or my own brother's. A young initiate Marine reached out to help me rise from the rubble, and I came within a hair's breadth of tearing open the exposed great artery of his neck with one savage bite. Deep in the night, I knelt prostrate before the Sanguinius painting for hours, weeping tears of crimson blood, begging him to take back this eternal hunger burning inside my chest. The sacred winged angel within the oil painting never granted me any answer at all, and only the marble statue beside it shed a few silent drops of congealed dark red blood tears. My final campaign in this life sent me to a shattered nameless Necron tomb asteroid, where there was no breathable air and no chronicle would ever remember the men who died there. Metallic skeletal Necron warriors poured out from the ancient tomb gates in countless legions, and ghostly emerald Gauss beams instantly carved through the crimson bodies of my brothers. As my brothers fell one after another around me, in my dazed vision I saw the winged Primarch himself plummeting through a crimson nebula with his golden wings burning and torn. The instant the amethyst death mask shattered violently across my face, I was no longer myself, only a final lingering echo of the falling Primarch as black rage made flesh and armor. I hurled away my heavy bolter in pure berserker fury and tore apart every Necron metallic shell that dared come within reach with bare gauntlets until my own knuckles burst open. At the very instant a final emerald Gauss beam at last burned clean through my chest, I unexpectedly smelled the warm red sand of my childhood Baal Secundus home one final time. If you also want to live the life of a Space Marine, please share this video. For the next life dungeon, Would you rather become an eternal custodian guardian or return as a mortal?